Hello, my name's Fred McNeil, and you're watching QAC TV 7. We have a wonderful program called Discover Queen Anne's County. And what we do every week, we spend some time with you and we talk about the great history of this great county we live in some of the towns. I have our walking encyclopedia, I guess our walking internet information source now, Danny Tabor. Danny, thank you for coming on very short notice.
Good to be here.
24 hours ago, you thought you had an easy day, and then I called, right?
Going to be quiet on Wednesday, but no, you called, yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Now, what we've done with Danny in our shows in the beginning, we've talked about the history of Queen Anne's County. Dan's been here since he was a young boy. Talked about his experiences in World War II. What we thought we'd do today, one of the real institutions in the county is the Goodwill Fire Department, which many young men and women get involved with, and it's certainly become, in a lot of ways, the backbone, certainly for safety, of our community. So Danny, how about we'll start with, when did you first get involved with the Goodwill Fire Department?
Well, I came back to the newspaper after the war, and I used to follow the engines and the trucks when they went out on a fire, and I'd get back to the firehouse and talk to the chief and try to get all the information for the paper. Finally, one day, Wes Thompson says, "Why the devil don't you join the fire company? You won't have to bother us so much." So I did, and I've been a member now for 65 years. 65 years. I think I'm the senior member now since Wes
congratulations.
Has gone.
Now, Dan, just so our viewers know, we're at the courthouse, and about 100 yards from here on the right is what I call the new fire hall. Where was it when 65 years ago?
The new fire hall.
Yeah.
We built that in 48.
Okay.
But we used to be on Water Street.
Okay.
And if you can imagine trying to
back out towards the high school this way.
No.
Oh no.
On the Water Street, the back here behind
us.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you can imagine pulling a fire truck out on that narrow street,
yeah.
You can imagine how tough it was. So we finally got some land here on the Broadway, and the Rotary Club jumped in and started a big fund drive, and by golly, in 1940, I think it was either 48 or 49 when we opened the building, and we've added to it 3 times since then.
Modernize it.
Yeah.
So now, was it how big, I mean, give me the size when you were on Water Street. I can't imagine, I mean, half the size?
Well, you know where there's a parking lot in there now.
Okay.
It was was room for one truck. We had 2 trucks.
Okay.
One behind another. And they were small trucks. They're not anything like the engines we have now. Small trucks in there, very small. And it was back when you had two-way traffic on the street.
So you had to stop traffic both ways.
Oh, it was a real fight to get a truck out on the truck.
Danny, do me a favor. We're talking 65 years ago, approximately 47, 48, or somewhere in there.
Right.
What was the difference between? And let's start with a truck then and now. I mean, smaller.
Oh, much smaller truck. Yeah, you carried everything on 1 or 2 pieces of apparatus, but now you got we have 7 pieces of apparatus, and you got all the gear you have to carry now. One truck will carry the ladders, and then of course you have a tower with which is the aerial truck. Other trucks will just carry the airbags, the air mask. The fellows always have to have the air.
It's had the oxygen mask.
Oxygen mask now, yes. It's a much more involved nowadays than it was back when I first joined.
Okay. And a young, all male or all young guy, what was it like 65 years ago?
65 years ago it was all male, yeah. But no, we have some very nice, very good young ladies now that are involved in the ambulance crew, but they're also firefighters too.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the women we have now are on the ambulance crew, but we have female firefighters here and elsewhere now.
Okay.
Yes.
Danny, how about, I mean, I always like to start, who were some of the characters? I mean, who were some of the old chiefs, or maybe some good old stories of a good, I mean, I don't know if there's such a thing as a good fire, fighting a good fire. Any just good names jump out at you first?
Well, of course, the first name that jumps out is Wes Thompson. West, when he died a couple of years ago at 94, he'd had 75 years in the company, and he was the chief emeritus, as we had him named, because he'd been chief and president, and well, he held practically every office in the company. And then we had Jim Seward. Jim Seward, one of the better drivers. If you're an engineer, you're a driver of an apparatus, and you stay with the truck the whole time you're on a call. Jim Seward was probably the best, one of the bigger names as far as the drivers go. Of course, today now we have the young Nathan Powell as the chief.
He's your chief.
Very, very good man. He's a career man in Anne Arundel County.
Danny, how about in that 65 years you've been in? I mean, I can remember I grew up in Montgomery County, and we had this forest fire right next to our neighborhood, and it was like a huge event. I mean, and it's one of those important moments in your life, because if the wind had blown the wrong way, Danny, we would have lost our neighborhood. Centreville have any famous fires or fires
Centreville had, well, they had a big one back in '02, which burned out the downtown section. But the worst one I was involved in was I've got it here in the book. I think it was 64 when the Opera House burned.
Now, tell people, where was the Opera House and what was the Opera House?
Well, you know where Edwards Pharmacy is now.
Right behind us.
Right behind it, and that where their parking lot is where the 3-story Opera House stood, which was our movie theater.
Movie theater, bowling alley.
And in fact, it was the first firehouse. I'm not sure it was the first firehouse, but there was they had a firehouse in there back in the way early 1900s. But that was the worst fire that I can be involved in.
1968.
68, April 68, because it threatened the whole downtown section.
Okay.
Then we had another one later when Draper's Market, which is where the optical gallery is now.
Again,
on
right behind
Street,
us.
Right across from where the old firehouse was. That was a very serious fire. But we've been fortunate. We used to have a lot of brush fires and woods fires around, and I remember carrying a big old Indian tank, they say, on your back and squirting water. But
out in the field,
nowadays it's not so bad. The forestry department's done a good job of educating the public on keeping your
brush under control.
So we've been lucky that way. But we've been very fortunate. Our people here don't have, they keep the fire extinguishers ready at homes, and we haven't lost any big homes lately that I know of.
So fingers crossed. So far, so good.
Keep your fingers crossed is right. We are having a lot more ambulance calls. We have 2 ambulances, and in fact, our volunteers during the day are so busy that now we've hired 2 EMTs.
These are full-time staff
to be here on the call, and if they go out on one call and have another call, then the volunteers have to pitch in.
Danny, how about, you've already alluded to, talk about the book for a second. Who wrote it? What's the title? Because obviously it's full of great pictures. And
well, Wes Thompson and I and a few others got together in 1989, which was the 100th anniversary of the fire company, and we put together a nice booklet, which I will present to you. You can have.
We'll give it to the county. Right.
Now,
can you still buy this or get it?
No, we don't have any more left. The Aspen Institute, Y Institute, back then, helped print it for us. So it didn't cost us too much. But we don't have any more of these left. I think I've got a half a dozen up in the history drawer that I have upstairs in the firehouse. So we really can't sell them, but we really ought to put together another one, because we're going to have the our 125th anniversary will be 2014.
Okay, so we're 2 years away.
It should be updated.
And that's a wonderful book with pictures and the first 100-year history. And just looking over you, sir, there's some great shots in there.
Oh, yeah. I'm very proud of this book.
You did great. It should be a bestseller if it's not.
Yeah, certainly.
Danny, let me ask you a question. I moved here in 1979. one of the first things I did, I was awakened one night, sirens going up. Is there a history? If I remember when I moved here in '79, now you correct me, on the other side of town is where the siren was located. I mean, if I'm wrong, and they moved it, or give me a little bit, was there always a siren system or what?
Oh yes, well there was always one on the firehouse, but
no.
I think I'm not sure myself, I think we either have 4 or 5 around town.
Around town, okay.
Because there's one out in the Heights, there's one down past the Catholic Church,
okay.
Past down Glendale Avenue, I think. I'm not sure where all of them are, but there are several around town, because the fellows that live out in the outskirts wouldn't be able to hear the one on the firehouse.
Now they've always been in place, or?
As far as I know, okay. Yes, because years ago everybody had to wait had to listen to the fire whistle. Nowadays, I think practically everybody has a pager,
a monitor and pager.
They
okay.
carry it with them, so they really don't need the sirens like they used to.
And Danny, just for my interest, do you know the different? What one sound? What would I say? One blast or 2 blast? Is there a code?
Well, of course, the operator will come on and tell you what it is. Station 4, we're station 4.
Okay.
They'll give that first, the number. But a 1 blast, if you hear 1 blast, that's an ambulance call.
Okay, so that's just so if you're riding an ambulance, you want to get there. All right. Okay.
Right, 1 call. But the full, I don't know, 30-second
blast
up and down is a accident or a fire that they need the apparatus. 1, 2, 3 pieces, whatever they call for. The dispatcher will tell when you get to the firehouse. Tells
what's
you
going on.
What's going on,
okay.
and how much, who is supposed to respond, and what equipment to take. In fact.
Okay. All right.
So yeah,
that's a tradition that's always gone on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know when I was a teacher at the high school, I don't know whether they still do it, but I guess if the long blast came, there were certain students who were allowed to go.
Wes Thompson used to say he and 3 other fellows used to be the only ones allowed to leave the high school when the whistle blew years ago. I didn't know they still allowed it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's still allowed, but I've been retired 3 years, but I remember when it went off, the guys would be running down to the office. Bless their hearts, most of them had pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And they'd be taking off, and I always get a kick because all of a sudden, if you're sitting here when the whistle blows, all of a sudden here come the trucks and here come the cars. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you well know, we're all volunteer, so the fellows all have other jobs, and the women.
Sure.
You're not around, so if it's during the middle of the day, and if it's a bad fire, they do have to get. We have boys, and I guess they're girls too, in the high school that are in cadet. We have cadet training now because we have the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute has a training center right outside of town that they have classes. And we used to go to. Well, I went to College Park several times years ago because they only had a training camp there. Now they have the training centers, and I think there's 4 in around the state.
So you can go to different places. Danny, what are all the, and that's good you brought that up, what are the different, I mean, if someone out there is watching this and says, hey, I want to do this, a young man or an older man or a old man or old woman, whatever it might be, what are the different things you can do?
Well, now, you mean as far as join the fire company?
Right, yeah.
Well, you can come right to the fire station anytime. Of course, there's people there now almost 24 hours. I shouldn't say that. 7 to midnight is our paid crew.
Okay.
But there's always fellas usually around. But come in there and they'll give you a blank application to fill out. You have to pass certain requirements.
Right.
We just don't bring you in. You have to pass certain requirements in the application form. But yes, in fact, we just took, I think, 2 more people in the last meeting, young people. We're very glad to get some. We need some more.
You need some young blood.
Yeah.
Now, what roles can you play? I mean, are there different things? I mean, does everybody come in as a fireman, or does everybody come in?
You can come in as a firefighter, or an EMT, which are different classes.
Right. Emergency medical technician or a firefighter.
But you can come in as both. To be both.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe we ought to have another classification for associate members where they just help out with fundraising.
Okay.
But
administrative duties or just something besides fighting fire.
Right now it's just a firefighter and an EMT.
Do they go right now when you get accepted? You go right to classes, or you have to?
Well, they sign up. They don't have classes every day. But they have to sign up for various classes. And when we have our meetings, when they call out the roster, they'll say so and so not here. Well, he's at class, you know.
Okay.
But there are more classes now than there used to be.
And more places to get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're talking, well, I think it's 180 hours you have to have.
So it's a pretty extensive course, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't. When I joined, they just
gave you a hose.
handed me some turnout gear and said, "Here."
You're here. Now, do you buy your own stuff, Danny?
Oh no. You got you're fully outfitted, and that stuff costs very expensive.
Oh, so the fire department actually gets you the hat, the jacket.
I think they did give me this T-shirt.
Okay.
But
that's the only thing.
Everything else you buy, yes.
Okay.
In fact, we had to wait once for the turnout gear to show up because some of it was just getting so worn out.
Okay.
But it's very expensive to outfit completely.
This is safety equipment, which it better be. Dan, how about now? What are your obligations? I mean, is there monthly meetings, weekly? What is if you join the fire department? If someone said, "Hey, wow, I like the idea. So what's my obligations? What do I got to do?"
Well, we meet twice a month.
Second
and fourth Monday nights.
Okay.
And it's year round. It's not like
you don't get off summer.
Summer service clubs, you don't meet during the summer.
Okay.
But no, we meet year round, second, fourth Monday, and
it's a regular meeting, or
regular meeting. And quite often the chief will end up saying, "Okay, we're going to have a training session at so and so." So then the fellows are meeting more than twice a month.
Okay. And tell me about the trainings. What do you call them? Controlled burns? I'll hear of an old barn. What's that all about?
Well, now, of course, you're getting away from me now. I'm not one of the active firefighters anymore. But we do have people ask us to come and burn something, and the chief will turn that into a training session. Oh. Yes. You'll get an instructor from the MIFRI, Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute training center will come, and they turn it into a training session. You have to notify dispatch, make sure that they know that
this is not a real fire.
A controlled burn out there. But yes, I think we just had one, I think, recently.
And it's a chance where you have someone from the state kind of guide you in training and using all the apparatus.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Now, Dan, let me ask you this. In the 65 years, I mean, obviously the trucks themselves have changed. You've got new fire stations. Any specific equipment? I mean, in the old days, it didn't seem like they wore the oxygen masks. Is that something in the last 20 years, or am I totally wrong?
No, that's right. I hardly ever wore one, I know. But nowadays, if you have to go into a building, you have to have one on.
Automatically put one on.
Automatic to put it on if you go inside a building. I remember a house fire we had out here on Water Street, across from. Well, in fact, it was where across from where the old Acme used to be.
Okay.
Big house, and I was up on the roof, the 3-story house, and my gosh, all this smoke came out of the windows. And it almost had me trapped. We got down, but at that time we didn't have masks on, and we should have, but we didn't have them on. So everybody now has to. In fact, they're in your equipment now. The apparatus has the mask on behind you when you get in. Because now everybody has to ride inside. You can't ride on the rear.
Oh, no more hanging on with the dog barking, Sparky.
Oh my golly. Used to ride the back of that equipment to Churchill or Queenstown, I swear.
And you just be holding on.
Oh my Lord, we stopped up here at what's this up here on our way to Churchill one time, making a turn around, and an old Spence fell off.
Actually fell off.
We had to stop and pick him up. But he wasn't hurt. Luckily, we weren't speeding. Of course, we were getting around a turn. but he had his turnout gear on. But yes, nobody rides the back
now you're
anymore.
inside a cab.
Everybody has to be inside. You're not.
Okay.
You can't leave the firehouse now without everybody being inside.
Okay, so
hooked. What's the word? The seat belt. Everybody
has the seat
belt on. Yes.
Now, Danny, as a kid, when I watched the parades, I tell you, every kid falls in love with. What do you call the person? And you probably already know where I'm going. There's some. I don't know what it's called. A hook and a ladder. There's a guy or a gal in the back, and the cab is up here, but he or she has a wheel too. Tell me what that is. As a kid, I always wanted to be that guy.
Now, I never knew about that person. I've seen them myself, too, but they're in the city. We don't have those in a small town. The small town volunteer outfits don't have that.
What were they doing, Danny? That's what I couldn't figure out. I hope they weren't steering the truck.
They were steering the rear wheels.
Oh, they were?
Which, of course, they had to go around a sharp turn, much sharper. Our tower truck is long, but it's not that long.
Okay.
Those were in the city. Of course, their ladders are 150, maybe 200 feet long.
They've got taller buildings.
We only have one. Our ladder is 100-foot aerial.
All right.
And you don't need that. that.
So we don't have that. All right.
I've never seen one in a small town.
Okay.
Any parade we've ever been to on the Eastern Shore, I've never seen one of those.
Okay. Now, Danny, we just have a couple minutes left. Now, tell me, you had a big parade here, and you said, tell me about this thing that might happen. I hope we're not letting the cat out of the bag. We want to have a big parade here for the 125th anniversary, 2014.
The 1969 was a 69. Yeah, we had a very big parade here at one of the conventions of the Delmarva Firemen's Convention.
So that's everybody from the Delmarva Peninsula shows up.
We had there was 100 companies here. Yes, they all didn't have equipment, but most of them did. And I think the parade was a couple hours long.
Oh, Dan, like I told you, I sat there with my kids. I know it was a couple hours. I think they were napping part of it.
It's fun to have these parades, but it gets a little complicated sometimes. Right. But we're hoping to have a nice, quite a fair on, it'll be sometime during 2014.
2014.
We were formed in October the 28th, I believe, was our
kickoff date. Okay.
1889. So I'm not sure it'll be that late, but we're hoping
sometime that year.
Yeah, we're going to have a big affair sometime.
Okay. Now, Danny, last question before I let you go. I've always heard about the Firemen's Convention in Ocean City. They have this beautiful monument down there, right on the boardwalk, I believe.
Oh yes, the fallen firefighters monument down there, and there's one in Emmitsburg. But the one down there, if you ever go to Ocean City, be sure to look at it on the boardwalk down on what is it, First Street or?
Right, it's right at the beginning of the boardwalk, or near the beginning of the boardwalk, I think.
Down there where the concrete boardwalk. And
right.
Yes, it's a. Most of the fire companies in the state, I believe, help Ocean City, get it funded, but at Ocean City, it was their job, and they have bricks around it, memorial bricks that you can buy, and there's several from Goodwill Fire Company members that are passed that are memorialized there. Yes, please, you ought to try to see that it's.
But Danny, what do you guys? Can you tell me what you do for a week down there? I hear these great stories. Man, don't go down the. I'm teasing, of course, but it's just a convention where you all get together, share ideas and equipment.
3 days, mainly 3 or 4 days of meetings. We have meetings, seminars. There's a dozen or more seminars. We have. Of course, business meetings. There's probably 3,500 show up down there.
It's quite an event.
I've been going for a good many years.
Okay.
And I always learn something. Excuse me. And I always glad to see fellows that I only see once a year at these meetings. It's important because you can pick up various ideas. Plus the fact, as I say, these seminars, you're learning all kinds of things.
Good stuff.
And we always have some good speakers. We don't need to have hear the governor all the time, but he has to show up.
Well, the politicians have to get involved.
But usually our keynote speakers are fellows that have been through major fires, and
Okay.
and they've done different things that help show what can be done and what should be done. I think
So it's a chance to get updated on the equipment ideas and what's been going on.
Very good. It certainly is.
Well, Danny, look, thank you for sharing all this brief history here of 125 years, which is not brief, of the Goodwill Fire. And more importantly, thank you and all the men and women who give countless hours to make sure I can go to sleep at night knowing if there is an emergency, you're there.
We're happy to be, as they say, we're always on call.
Okay, and you guys always come through. And as we finish up, to tell the audience, if there's anyone interested in joining, male or female, just simply call the fire department. They're always looking for good people.
Call. I forgot the number now, but
that's okay.
Call the firehouse and leave a message, or stop in the station. There's usually somebody there that can fill out a form. We'll be glad to have you.
We'll put them on a hook and ladder before they know it.
Oh my golly!
Okay. My name's Fred McNeil. You've been watching QA TV7. We've had a delightful talk with Danny Tabler. With Dan, now we've covered Centreville from the 30s up to World War II. We've tasted a little bit of World War II. Now we've got the fire department. We'll have to get you back in the fall. We'll go from World War II on. Okay?
Oh my! All right, we certainly will.
Okay. Thank you for watching QA TV7 and Discover Queen Anne's County.